For years, the story of artificial intelligence was very simple. OpenAI made the world dream with ChatGPT, and NVIDIA sold the picks and shovels of that gold rush. Every time AI exploded, NVIDIA cashed in. Every time a new model came out, more GPUs were needed. Every time ChatGPT gained more users, NVIDIA's value climbed even higher. But today, OpenAI has sent a very clear message to the market. We want to control our own infrastructure. And that message has a name: Jalapeño. OpenAI has just unveiled its first AI chip, designed with Broadcom. And be careful here, this chip is not designed to train models, it is designed for inference. In other words, when you ask ChatGPT a question, this is the type of chip that is used to generate the answer. Because in AI, there are two words. The first word is training. That is where you take gigantic amount of data, use thousands of chips, and teach the model to understand language, code, images, and many more things. It is basically the factory where the brain is built. The second word is inference. Here, the model is already trained. You ask it a question, and it has to answer. You give it a bug, and it has to fix it. You ask it for a video, an email, a strategy, and it has to produce something. This is the moment where the brain works live. And economically, this second word is becoming massive because training happens from time to time. You train a big model, then a new version, then another one, but inference happens all the time. Every prompt, every line of code generated, every API request, every agent running in the background consumes inference. And the general public does not care which model is running behind the scenes. What people want is a fast, smooth, reliable answer. Exactly like with Google. Nobody would accept a search engine that takes 30 seconds to show results. With AI, it is the same thing. If the assistant takes too long to answer, the experience gets worse. If Codex takes too long to modify a project, the developer gets bored. And that is why this announcement is much more important than just one more chip. OpenAI says this new chip, Jalapeño, was designed from the start for LLMs, for large language models, with an architecture optimized to reduce data movement, balance, and other technical stuff. The simple translation is OpenAI wants a chip that does not waste energy and responds fast. The most interesting detail is that the first sample are already running on models like GPT 5.3 Codex Spark, Codex Ultra Fast model. So the goal is clear: accelerate Codex, this new tool of OpenAI, and accelerate agents, accelerates OpenAI's products. OpenAI is talking about a future where AI agents can work for a long period of time to chain tasks together, to code, to test, to fix, and do all of that without becoming too expensive. And this is where NVIDIA has to pay attention. For a long time, NVIDIA had the perfect position. Big models needed GPUs, hyperscalers bought GPUs, startups bought GPU capacity, investors saw NVIDIA as the unavoidable infrastructure layer of AI. But fast inference is opening a new frontier with specialized competitors. Look at Groq. I'm not talking here about Groq with a K, the AI of X. I'm talking about the company Groq with a Q. Groq became known for chips designed to respond extremely fast to LLM requests, and NVIDIA signed a huge deal around Groq, described by several media outlets as a licensing and acqui-hire agreement worth $20 billion. NVIDIA paid a very high price to recover technology, talent, and strategic advantage in inference. Look also at Groq's other competitor, Cerebras. Cerebras recently went public with a very clear promise: ultra-fast responses, thousands of tokens per second, and an infrastructure designed for real-time AI. Even OpenAI has already worked with Cerebras to accelerate some inference use cases. The market is saying one thing very clearly, is that speed is becoming a commercial weapon, and OpenAI wants its own weapon. Of course, OpenAI is not going to replace NVIDIA overnight. NVIDIA is still extremely powerful, especially for training, for its software ecosystem, for CUDA, and for many other things. But the strategic risk is coming from the top. NVIDIA's best customers are starting to build their own alternatives. Google has its TPUs, Anthropic already use a mix of hardware, Google TPUs, AWS Trainium, and NVIDIA GPUs. In other words, even the biggest AI labs refuse to depend on a single supplier. They want to choose the right chip for the right use cases. And OpenAI is now doing the same thing, but with an even more vertical ambition, becoming full stack. Models, products, APIs, agent, infrastructure, chips, network, data centers. When you control the entire chain, you can optimize every step. You can reduce costs. You can improve latency. You can decide where your compute capacity goes. You can also tell investors a much more powerful story. Because there is another issue behind this announcement, it's the financial battle. OpenAI is preparing for a possible IPO. Anthropic has already taken a major lead in the public narrative, with Claude Code exploding among developers and very impressive revenue dynamic. The market sees Anthropic as the champion of enterprise AI and code. OpenAI had to respond. And OpenAI's answer is called Codex, but it is also called Jalapeño, this new chip. Codex needs speed. A slow coding tool loses value. A coding agent has to read the project, fix its own mistakes, and iterate. If every step costs too much and takes too long, the product remains limited. If OpenAI succeeds in making Codex much faster and cheaper thanks to its own inference chip, then the competition with Claude Code moves to another level. And we have to stay realistic. OpenAI's article is also a communication exercise. They talk about substantially better performance per watts, but the detailed benchmarks will come later. We don't have them now. They talk about development in 9 months accelerated by OpenAI owns models, by its own models, which is impressive, but now we need to see large-scale production. They also talk about deployment at gigawatt scale. But between a chip running in a lab and a reliable global infrastructure, there is a huge industrial gap. And NVIDIA still has enormous advantages. NVIDIA does not sell only a chip. NVIDIA sells the complete ecosystem, libraries, tools, networking, support, and deep integration across the entire industry. Beating NVIDIA on one specific use case is possible, but replacing NVIDIA across the whole AI chain is much harder. But here the signal is brutal. The AI market is entering a phase where the winners will not only be the companies with the best model, they will also need the best infrastructure, the best cost per answer, and the best latency and the best availability. Tomorrow's AI will be judged like a service. Does it answer fast? Does it work when everybody is using it? And is the cost low enough to serve billions of requests? And that is why inference is becoming the central battlefield. There is also another element to understand. In the coming years, AI is going to become much more interactive. Today, a lot of people ask a question and wait for an answer, but tomorrow, this has already started with the Codex, for example. AI will speak, will see the screen, will control software, will call tools, will create files, will compare options, will negotiate actions, and work continuously. Every microaction requires inference. Every decision made by the agent requires compute. Every correction means running the model again. So the real cost of AI does not only come from the final answer, it comes from all the invisible steps that lead to an answer. And that is exactly why OpenAI's chip is targeting right now. It's targeting the heart of the problem. So OpenAI is presenting a chip, but OpenAI is also presenting an economic survival strategy. If the company wants to serve billions of users, it has to reduce the cost of every interaction. It has to gain speed and it has to reduce its dependence on NVIDIA. And it has to prove to the market that it can turn its product lead into a lasting industrial advantage. The real question now is simple: will Jalapeño, this new chip, be a true technological breakthrough? Or will it mainly be a showcase designed to reassure investors, customers, and Wall Street? And for me, the answer will depend on 3 things. First, the real benchmarks. How many tokens per second? At what latency? What power consumption? What cost per million tokens? And compared to NVIDIA, Cerebras, TPUs, and Groq, what's the difference really? And second, production. A successful chip in a lab is not enough. You have to manufacture it, integrate it, cool it, scale it. And third, the product impact. If tomorrow ChatGPT answers really fast, if Codex becomes much smoother, if agents can work longer for less money, Then this new chip, Jalapeño, will become a strategic weapon. If the users see no difference, the announcement will mostly remain a financial signal for, like I said, for Wall Street. So no, NVIDIA is not dead yet. But NVIDIA has just received the message that all of its biggest customers have understood the same thing. AI is becoming too important to stay dependent on a single supplier. OpenAI is attacking NVIDIA with its own chip. The real war will not be fought only in the models, it will be fought in the data centers, in latency, in the cost per answer, and the ability to serve AI to billions of people quickly. And that war could withdraw the entire AI market. If you like this video, please subscribe, like, and comment, and I'll see you soon for more. Bye-bye.